Good morning, Devils fans. Happy Sunday. Doing a little bit of a different video today as I'm going to take a look around the league at what other signings teams have done, and in relevance to that, who's still out there in the free agency market. Obviously, while pertinent to the Devils, it doesn't necessarily directly relate to us unless you think there are still moves to be made out there, which I think we're mostly done outside of some mega crazy goalie type situation. Feels like our forwards and D are basically locked in. So really this was just to recap the landscape of where the league is at, what other kind of contracts guys are getting out there, and just look at that as a whole as compared to where our team is currently sitting. So I'm going to go back a little bit, as I haven't really touched on basically anything that has been going on outside of the Devils in any of these videos. And I'm just going to start with guys who have either recently re-signed or signed new contracts with teams, and mostly focusing on ones that are just of note. I'm not going to talk about every piece. So the farthest back I'm going to go is to August 4th, beginning of the month, where Tom Wilson signed a 7-year, $6.5 million contract with the Washington Capitals. He's already 30 years old, and by the end of this deal, he's going to be 37. Now, obviously, guys play to that age, but with the style of play that Wilson plays, I mean, that contract already looks bad year one, given the cap hit, and it's going to look atrocious by the end. Now, I've talked about it before. Washington's really just out here trying to get Ovi his goal record, and it seems like Wilson is being primed up to be the next captain after Ovi. So if this is the route they want to go, and they're just mostly focusing in that area, even if they say otherwise, then hey, good for them. Tom Wilson's a great personality. He definitely brings eyes to the TV for them. You can say what you want about his dirty hits. I've definitely had my share of opinions on those. I think he's been very dirty in the past. I do think he did clean that up a bit. But on the whole, I mean, he's a great player. I mean, I would have taken him on the end of his current deal. I think he would have been a great fit for what the team needed heading into playoffs and all that, but absolutely no shot would I give him anything like this contract. So to me, it's just more apparent they want to keep guys that they know are going to bring eyes to the TV and will be there to help Ovi out along the way. And yeah, again, it already looks bad and it'll look atrocious by the end. Another decent contract, Matt Dumba signed over in Arizona. 1 year, $3.9 million. It's Arizona. He's a good signing for them. He'll just help shore up. Like I said, I think Arizona is going to push for playoffs. They're really going to try and land an arena deal and just show, hey, we're not just always selling and going to be playing lottery odds. So it was a good signing for them there. Nothing long term. I mean, just a smart deal. Martin Jones, it's somebody who I talked about on the podcast. It's someone who I've mentioned here about a goalie I think the Devils possibly could have targeted just to give Schmid some starter time down in Utica and to have a nice vet backup who can handle a workload if needed, even if his numbers as of late have not been great. But at 1 year, $875,000 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, it's just a smart signing by them, in my opinion. Just some goalie insurance. We saw it with Vegas. You need multiple goalies, deep depth, at least as of late it seems, to make a good run, or possibly give yourself a shot if you don't have that absolute bona fide stud, which only a handful of teams in the league really do. So again, I mean, that's just a good signing for a team that's very cap strapped, and I'm going to get into that more by the end of this. From there really wasn't any signings of note, nothing I considered anything of interest until just within this past week, we did get a slew of them. Brandon Hagel signed a 8-year, $6.5 million contract in Tampa Bay. This is just the Tampa signature deal. Going to sign guys that we like to very long-term deals, hopefully trying to keep the AAV down slightly, as they are basically a full cap crunch team for the past few years and going forward for a bit here. Stamkos is going to have a new deal coming up. Cap is supposed to jump, but they really need to penny pinch everywhere they can. And Hagel's a pretty great player. I mean, 6.5 is not bad for him at all. 8 years is going to take him to 33, but you're getting him for some of his best years. You have had him for his best, and you're going to get him for some more great ones. So I like this deal. I think it's pretty solid. I could absolutely hear arguments that if you kept the length shorter, maybe you could have gotten that cap hit down a little bit. Yeah, but given where Tampa's at and how they're building their contract structure, it's just a smart deal in my eyes. And I think it really won't bite them too bad come the end of it. And really, if you look at the age of their core, by the end of this deal, they're not going to care. They're really looking at the first, five years of this deal as the most important, which is where it takes Hagel up to 30, which is perfect. And then those last 3 years, I mean, if they're still somehow competing, God bless them. But, they don't care about the tail end of that deal. Other big one of note, obviously, Devils fans I know love to clown on this one. Brat Pack for sure had his last at this, and that was Alexis Lafreniere signing his RFA extension, a 2-year, $2.325 million deal. I believe it is the cheapest deal for a first overall draft pick basically ever, especially if you adjust for cap hit percentage. I mean, Lafreniere has just not really shown much, but I think there's still a great player there. I think it's more so the Rangers' fault for him being stunted in his growth and not necessarily the skill of the player involved. Honestly, from a Devils perspective, this one actually kind of stinks. I think he will bring more than 2.325 worth of value over those 2 years for sure. Our best hope is honestly he still does not get opportunity even under a new coach, stagnates again in this season, and they try to trade him for as much value as they can for a first overall, still super young, on a cheap deal, and that they aren't smart enough to give him the right opportunities and hold on to him to really flourish, and hopefully just get him out of this division would be fantastic for us. But yeah, I mean, it's a very easy thing to clown on, so definitely have fun with your Rangers fans on that. First overall, 2.325. Oof, not great, everyone. The other big deal, obviously, came just a handful of days ago, and that was Austin Matthews extending for 4 years at $13.25 million. It's $53 million in those 4 years. Biggest contract. I guess technically not the biggest contract, but the biggest cap hit now in the NHL. It will go past what McKinnon was going to get for his raise as well, and obviously McKinnon usurped McDavid, and now Matthews usurping McKinnon. He's worth it. I know it's a big contract, but it's Austin Matthews. He's worth 13.25 and more. You can say, he's the most paid player in the NHL. Should he have taken less because the Toronto Stars hasn't done anything? No, he's 26. It's going to take him to 30. Obviously, if you're Toronto, when you have this superstar type of player, the 30 age limit as far as wanting to sign guys kind of goes out the window. You sign your studs for as long as you can keep them and get them, because even if they fall off of their peak, they're still going to be much better than basically anybody else in the NHL. Matthews obviously included, especially given his skill set and style of play. You would love to see this at 8 years. Obviously, the team's going to come out and say, hey, yeah, we can reevaluate. Come there. He'll be 30 years old, blah, 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 blah. Cap hit's going to go up, whatever. But he's going to be worth this. He's worth more than that. You just want him longer if you're a Maple Leafs fan. But you're not going to complain because, obviously, you were worried that he was going to walk after his current deal. So you got him for at least 4 more. I believe it's full no move across the board all those years. So it's on Matthews if he did want to move. And, yeah, there's still the Maple Leafs as a whole, which I can kind of talk about a bit here along with a couple other teams, are still in a ton of cap hell, even though that cap hit doesn't come in until the season after this one. Even with current deals and LTIR coming in, they're still about $3 million over the cap, so they still have moves that need to be made. And then if you factor in the Matthews raise, if they somehow get a Nylander extension done, they definitely have to do some juggling, so expect some moves to still be made out of Toronto. Only other contract of note, and it was another pretty good one, was Evan Bouchard over in Edmonton. He got a $3.9 million cap hit for 2 years, so 7.8 total. They also would have liked to sign him longer. They're also in a cap crunch situation. That's going to take him to 25, and he's probably going to get a big pay raise there. So definitely keep an eye out on what happens with Bouchard over in Edmonton. But for the next 2 years, we're still really pushing with McDavid and Draisaitl. Great signing for Edmonton. So that really does it for the contract signings. Now for the stuff that's a bit more important for the Devils. Who's still out there in UFA? Well, Patrick Kane is, but we know he's getting surgery and recovering. He's not going to be signing probably until middle of the year at best, and it's not going to be with us. I mean, he's just old and slow. Even if he has the hockey IQ, he's just not going to be able to keep up with our system and style of play. We have no interest or need for him. Does he end up back in New York? Maybe. If he does, awesome. I'd love to skate circles around him again. Jonathan Toews has announced he is done for the year. He still wants to come back the following season. He is still dealing with issues of long COVID. So, we'll see what happens with them there. I don't have too much else to say about Toews, given some, less than desirable information that's come out of Chicago in his time there. You want to call him one of the best captains in the league. I got thoughts and opinions there, but this isn't the show for that. Oh, Josh Bailey. He's getting older. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a deal yet. I mean, he's still a decently solid depth piece if he's willing to take a cheap contract. Not here, not for us, but he's there. Obviously, the name and note that we know and love and care about was Tomas Tatar. It's pretty staggering if you look at his impacts from regular season to postseason. We signed him here for the regular season to get us there, and he did. And then postseason, he once again repeated. He doesn't bring a ton in postseason. Somehow, some way, his game really falls off a cliff once there. It's insane. I don't think I can really recall a player who is quite like that. But it's just surprising he hasn't signed. There's a lot of rumors there around him going to the Penguins, which I think would be a great get for them. But I'm really surprised a bubble team like, say, Ottawa, maybe even the Red Wings, Buffalo even, didn't want to bring this guy in just to get over the hump, and then you deal with his playoff play once you're there. And yeah, that one's still an absolute head scratcher for me. A few other names of note. I mean, there's Clefbaum, Gardner, Donskoy, all up there in age. No one we're going to really care about. Jesse Puljujarvi, if we needed, maybe if Bastian didn't come back, I could have seen us taking a flyer, but we got Bastian, so there's no real need for him here with us. Fun little name, John Moore is still out there. Obviously, wouldn't bring him back. Yeah, there's really no other names. All goalies that are still out there on the market I've talked about before, and they're all insanely old. In Khudobin, Halak, Mike Smith. Again, these are all really old guys. Halak, I think is decent, but at that point, you might as well just keep and do like almost a true 50-50 split with Vitek and Akira. There's no real other names I can see. I'm sure some of these guys are going to get PTOs and get some play. Maybe even Wayne Simmons again. I always loved Wayne. I hated when he was in Philly, just how good he was. I loved him being here, even though obviously he was not playing at his peak in his times here. But I'm sure some team might take a flyer on him unless he's looking to hang up the skates. But yeah, nothing too crazy interesting on the UFA market anymore. I mean, Tatar's probably the biggest name of guys that will actively start the season with your team. Outside, Kane, like I said, being in, recovering and coming in midway. Last little bit is going to be restricted free agents, and this is where it is a little interesting. Over in Anaheim, they got two guys that they're dealing with, and that's Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale. I'm sure Zegras is looking for an absolute payday. He brings eyes, he brings jersey sales, he does it all. How great is he actually? Well, he's great, but he's not like, he's no Jack Hughes or anything. I'm sure they're going to point to Jack as a reason why he's not going to get an $8 million contract, and that is definitely what they should be doing. So I'm definitely interested to see where his deal ends up. He is a restricted free agent, like I said, so they do hold his rights completely. So he's not going to get any sort of bonkers deal. I'm sure they want him on the 8 years, but I'm sure Zegras wants probably a bridge deal so he can get a huge pay bump with that cap increase over these next few years. So we'll be very interested to see where that all plays out, because Drysdale, I'm sure, is in the exact same boat. He did not play very much last season, but he still has high pedigree and has great stats and everything leading up to the missed season. Well, basically missed season. I think he only played like 8 games or so. So we'll see how those play out with those two guys. Anaheim's cap situation, you would think they are flush with money, which I believe they are, but after these two guys come in, their old guys move out, and then some of their other young guys get new deals. It's going to be very interesting over in Anaheim. Really, only other couple names that really stuck out to me was Shane Pinto over in Ottawa. I think he's going to get a decent deal, nothing crazy. And then Morgan Frost over in Philly. I think Morgan Frost actually has a lot of leverage over there because they don't have a lot going on, and they need to lock up young guys for long term, especially for when Michkov comes over. So I think Frost will actually get probably a bigger contract than you're expecting. That's really going to cover it for all of the main pieces that I still see out there on the market. The only other big piece that comes to mind of a deal that was done was Erik Karlsson getting moved over to Pittsburgh. That was obviously the big trade, I would say, for this offseason. He's going to do great there. I mean, I talked about it. I actually have Pittsburgh outside of the playoffs. I would probably now bump them up to that actual wild card position with Karlsson in. It's going to be very interesting to see how they balance his time and Letang between power play, 5-on-5 ice, and the likes, who he is mostly put on the ice with. But I mean, when you're talking probably Letang out there with Crosby all the time, and then Karlsson out there with Malkin all the time, it's not going to be very fun to play with in the defensive end. but you get those guys going the other way, which we've seen us do to them now for years. It's definitely going to have a lot of holes on defense and will probably get lit up on a number of occasions. Let me know what you guys think. How much of a threat do you think Pittsburgh actually is now with Carlson? Obviously, it will depend a lot on Jari. Does he stay healthy? Can he actually play to his heights that he's played at before? Does he fall back down to earth a bit if he's even in net? So I think that's really where their season will linchpin on is Jari. Carlson, again, though, is a fantastic ad. Somehow they got younger and shedded cap in taking on $10 million of Carlson by getting rid of Petrie to Smith. Yeah, it's just absolutely silly. A Granlund as well, moving over. Yeah, good job. I mean, if you're Dubas, I mean, you are fully in on the Crosby, Letang, Malkin window. So bringing in Carlson makes a ton of sense for them. I said it, that they were going to do everything to get him over Carolina. There was no way Carolina was going to outbid, just knowing how Carolina structures and knowing what Pittsburgh was looking to do. So that's really it for all the names out there. The big moves catching up on the NHL as a whole, I think. For the Devils, again, not too much going on. I think our team is pretty set. We're very excited to get into training camp. Rookies reporting first. We are less than a month out. I will probably pick up the Spotlight Series again during the work week. And yeah, that's going to do it. Enjoy the end of the weekend, everybody. It looks to be a much more beautiful day today here in Jersey. I will see everyone tomorrow morning as always. And forever, let's go Devils.